And I think it kind of comes down to kind of a real basic element is who's fucked up? How much responsibility is out there, and where does the real burden kind of lie? If she did you wrong, behaved abominably, did a bunch of things, and she's coming back and you're having to chase her, I'm thinking you're putting yourself in a bad situation. That's a high-risk investment. Right? Now, if she had, and she's learned, gone to therapy, worked on herself, proven herself, done a number of things, and she still has value, consider it. It's an interview process. All right? Same thing with you. How much were you responsible? Did you care and consider her in the relationship? Were you the one that did wrong? And we go back to the critical confrontation when we talk about, or critical conversations when we talk about the event horizon. Where are we on the event horizon? Was it a single anomaly that destroyed and torpedoed the relationship? And most likely, you can probably get over almost anything, okay, if it's a singular event. And in that regard, I would recommend each and every one of you learn how to give a proper apology. That doesn't mean just saying, I'm sorry. It means identifying what was done, taking ownership of that action without question, without justification, without excuse. All right? It means owning it. I did this and it was wrong, period. Follow it up by acknowledging the damage and harm that was done, because it was. She was hurt. She was egreged. You're at fault. You can't physically repay, but you can emotionally repay. I know I harmed this relationship. I know I broke this trust. I know I treated you in a manner that wasn't becoming of you because you're an individual that has earned my respect, and I did not reflect that. I was not operating with my own sense of entitlement or my sense of identity. These are not values I hold, and that my actions were counter to that. Then you need to apologize, express your sorrow, and again, pop the question in an aspect, cap it off with, tell her how you're going to change. Don't just say, I'm not going to do this again. Relate how this has affected you. I'm ashamed of my behaviors, and because of that, it's influenced me to prompt me to never want to do this again. All right? In these particular cases, if you're able to do that, and it's real and sincere, you may have a fighting chance. All right? Otherwise, you're going to have to showcase change. Saying you've changed ain't going to cut it. All right? Resurrecting the old relationship again isn't going to cut it. People that have healthy sense of who they are, where they want to go, and want a healthy life don't want the same failing relationship. It's already failed once. Don't repeat it again. Don't propagate the notion, you'll just do better. Okay? We'll have the same relationship and it'll be fine. It's not going to be fine. Intuitively, people know it's not going to be. All right? You need to showcase change. You also need to showcase the lack of neediness, especially in getting her back. All right? I've never heard somebody say neediness is attractive. On the contrary, women again and again and again will sit down and say a sense of confidence is attractive. All right? You begging, pleading, doing all these supplicating elements trying to get her back, not going to work. She may entertain it and may validate her, that's fine. But don't expect a positive, healthy relationship by acting through a supplicating manner. You also need to be able to reestablish trust and respect. It's going to be a little more difficult. That, I think, is established initially by the lack of contact. When a woman sits down and dumps you and says, I don't want to see you again, don't be hounding her. Respect that decision. It's going to be a tough one. If she's willing to meet with you and you say, I'm going to meet you at a certain place, certain time, do that. Don't leave her hanging. Don't throw the women that you've been seeing in her face. And it's fair to do that, but don't do it. Okay? It's not showing respect. It's not going to build that trust. All right? You know, you can play on people's emotions. It may be successful in the short run. It's not going to work out long term. And you're also establishing a sense of behavior and propriety in the relationship. She's entitled to do that to you. All right? I don't necessarily like tit for tat. It's not healthy. It can be insidious. All right? Another aspect is don't dwell on the past. Apologize, make amends, but don't dwell on it. Now, the flip side to this is you want to kind of tap into a little bit of the nostalgia, relive some of the good times, but don't do it too much, because in the back of her head and in human nature, we all know how this relationship ends. The story doesn't end well. Dwelling on the past doesn't get you into the future, all right? Utilize it to a minor degree. Don't be dwelling on how you did poorly. Don't be dwelling on how you did her wrong. Cut it short. I've apologized for it. I meant it, but I'm not going to be hounded. I'm not going to be, a whipping post over this. All right? The other aspect is the notion of conscious living. You need to be living your life for you. You need to be living a life women want to be naturally a part of. It shouldn't necessarily be just your sole goal. That women are going to find attractive. That is going to want to lure back in a healthy manner. When she sees you living your life, being the man you should have been and could have been, all right? That's an entirely different thing than saying, I'm going to change. That becomes attractive, especially if she's holding out a little bit of reservation on it. And the last one on this entire talk is when you cap this off, it's not enough to have a life that women want to be a part of. You've got to be able to make that connection with her and that connection with the life you're living and be able to project that in the future. And that's ultimately what relationships are all about. It's about making that connection with an individual, sharing that familiarity, that bond, that trust, that respect, and projecting that into the future. All right? So ultimately, I would sit down and say that relationships are very, very, very positive aspects on human development, on male culture, and I think we need to be celebrating these in many more ways. I think we need to be looking at them. I think we need to be studying them. I think we need to be developing skill sets to be able to have healthy relationships. I think they're going to affect not only our own lives, they're going to affect our families' lives, they're going to affect societies and cultures. All right? You want to be a better man, not just for yourself. You want to be a better man so that you can project that to have a better life. You can have a better choice of a partner. You can have a better family. Okay? Strengthen your family tree. Strengthen your cultural tree. All right? Any questions? Dead silence.
I'm curious, you mentioned at the beginning monogamy and the aspect of relationships, and you didn't mention it again, but I'm curious.
It's a dirty word.
I'm curious as to your views on enacting this stuff. I've done both. I've done monogamy. I've done polyamory or polygamy, and I don't know if it's just that I'm not ready for a monogamous relationship or that it's not for me. I'm not really sure what it is, but I'm curious as to your thoughts on the benefits of just having one woman to have these deep relationships with as opposed to having one or two or three.
Okay. It's fair. Ultimately, you're going to have to make your own decision, and that's going to be the most decisive. It has to be your decision for you. I can sit down and say, when you commit to a woman and you have, commit to not only the idea of a interpersonal commitment, but one of monogamy, you're operating without a net. And anytime you operate without a net and a chance of real failures there, you're going to act more decisive. You're going to have to actually pay more attention to it because you have more at risk. Okay? The nature of that relationship is going to be different. Now, I'll be really honest. I've done similar things as you have. When you have multiple choices, when you constantly have opportunities, I'm going to sit down and say, honestly, you're going to make better decisions. You're going to make better decisions. They're going to come easier to you than if you only have one choice or one decision. But when you're dealing with one individual, you're talking about the nature of not having necessarily picking the better apple off of a tree using a gardening aspect. You're actually talking about tending a garden. You're actually tending to an individual. Okay? And the idea of a partner is in a very real sense here. You're partnered together. And so you kind of have a responsibility and obligation to help foster an environment where the individual is going to basically thrive and flourish. And i.e., you want the same from them. You want them to be doing the same thing. I think there's a level of intensity, a level of commitment to action that you get in monogamy and in a committed relationship that you don't when you have a plethora of choices. And the key in all this is you need to experience it all. Experience dating. Experience not dating but seeing a bunch of different women. Experience the idea, for example, of taking a summer lover, of saying, you know, for this summer I'm going to commit to one individual for a little while. I know it's not going to last long, and can relatively communicate that. You know, and that's fair. You're not stringing her along. You're not building up expectations. But to sit down and say, I'm going to dedicate this period of time between you and I to see what happens, to allow something to foster that may not have fostered when there are other individuals in play. And the reality is the less complexity. The more players you have involved, the more complex it gets. You know, and that's just kind of simple math and dynamics. If any time you have more players, you're going to have more possible outcome and more difficult it's going to be. Not that it can't be achieved. It can be. It has been, and there's case histories for this throughout time. But I think it's something that everybody has to make their own decision of what their life is going to be like, how do they want to live it, and find that aspect, whether it involves being in a relationship or not being in a relationship. You can live a happy, fulfilling, productive life and never been in a relationship. I just know for myself and a lot of other people, that's not always the case. It's why, as a men's community group, we lose a large number of individuals because there's no place for them in the men's community. Once you're in a relationship, you're ostracized. You know, I've been told that very directly. It's not something I believe in. I haven't gone away. You know, it's one of the reasons why I'm staying in here today is to be able to implement that change, be that aspect, support others that think that way, give them an opportunity to flourish.
I had a question that was more of a point of clarification.
Mm-hmm.
You talked earlier about the idea of removing sex from the table.
Yeah.
I guess when you're, my question is, are you saying that if you're trying to find a relationship with a woman, then remove the physical beauty aspect from it, mm-hmm. and just look at her as a person and decide if you want to have a relationship with this person, and then otherwise, you know, you can, you know, pursue the other route of chasing tail and that sort of thing?
Yeah. What I find is when I have a cute girl in front of me, I get stupid. I don't make good decisions. I blather. I stutter. I don't make good decisions. I really don't. And so part of the aspect is, you want to be with somebody of high quality. You want somebody that you're attracted to. So how do you actually get around that? And part of that is just running a mental exercise of ignoring the beauty. Okay? The other aspect is I've come across in so many cases individuals that were gorgeous physically, that were heinous on the inside. And the thing is, I want to make sure I'm not responding to the physical beauty, the glitter, okay, the flash, and I want to respond to the individual. So part of what I actually, physically do is to screen that out mentally. Don't respond to how pretty they are. Don't make comments, God, you're gorgeous. God, that looks great on you. God, you're really attractive. Okay? The other follow-on is to sit down and have the anxiety where you're looking for sex. Okay? That's a human drive. It's a human need. It's natural. But don't make that the goal. Don't be confused with where you want to go and have a relationship and have sex get in the way. Because women are actually very concerned about your ability to commit and exchange. Because a lot of women, the only two things they work with are the exchange in beauty value and sex value. And often what you'll find is they don't have anything else that they bring to the table. And that's a sad story, but you'll see it in a number of different women in a number of different ways. I look for somebody that brings a hell of a lot more to the table. A measure of charm, a measure of intrigue, intelligence, interest, things that I can actually share and banter ideas with, somebody I can trust.